Hi, everybody. Welcome back to SmugMug Live. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is episode 95, and I'm delighted that we have not one but two incredible guests joining me today. But before we introduce our guests, as always, just want to let you know that SmugMug Live is brought to you by SmugMug and Flickr. If you're looking for an incredible place to showcase your images online with a photo website, have incredible online storage, or if you need an e-commerce solution to sell your images online, then please check out everything we do here at smugmug.com. Or if you're looking to be part of an incredible photo community, then check us out over at flickr.com and see what we have to offer over there. We would really appreciate your support by hitting the subscribe button. And if you're enjoying today's episodes, make sure you hit that like button. And if you have any questions today for our guests or for me, then you can post those questions in the chat window. Give me a heads up that it's a question just by starting your question with the word question. That way I can find it. And of course, it's always good to see who's joining us today. So give yourself a shout out in the chat window. Let us know what part of the world you are joining from. But let's start by introducing today's wonderful guests. And I am delighted to say that I am joined today by the incredible Chris Dahl-Bredine, aerial photographer based out in New Mexico, and the subject of our latest film here at SmugMug Films. Hi, Chris. How are you?
Great. How you doing? Good to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you on the show. You keeping well in New Mexico?
Yeah, we've been doing great. Nice weather. It's been beautiful here.
Great weather for flying, yeah?
Great flying weather. Yeah, it's been excellent.
Well, we're going to talk a little bit more about your aerial photography and how you do it, and the look at some of the incredible images you capture. But we also have another guest today, which is our in-house cinematographer, Anton Lorimer. Hi, Anton. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. Thanks for having me again. Good to
Good,
be on.
good. And you're joining us from San Diego,
That's right. Yeah, weather's good.
beautiful part of the world. So thank you, gentlemen, for joining me today. And the reason we have Chris and Anton here is because we just released a few weeks ago one of our One Day One Artist films featuring Chris Dahl-Bredine. And we thought, let's get Chris on the show and Anton, and we can talk a little bit about Chris's work, and we can talk to Anton about the filming of the film as well. So, Chris, tell us a little bit about yourself and what is a trike?
Yeah, so I've been living in New Mexico for 40 something years, and I've always wanted to see this area from above. So about 20 years ago, I started training how to fly a trike, which is basically a like a hang glider with a carriage and a motor, three wheels, two seats. And what it allows you to do is to take off from an airport, fly for numerous hours in an open cockpit and see everything with from an unobstructed point of view, moving slowly and out in the open air. It's really a pleasure to be up there in one of those.
So you hadn't done any flying. You hadn't been a pilot before you flew the trike.
No, I hadn't been a pilot. I tried to fly in a couple small planes, but I just felt too confined and enclosed in a regular cockpit. So yeah, this was my first flying endeavor, and yeah, I took it up and loved it.
That's cool.
So
It's
been
funny
doing it ever
because
since.
you say you felt confined within other types of airplane. Everybody I've spoken to about this film said, "Oh my gosh, he's so exposed. I don't think I could do that." So they have the complete opposite feeling from what you have.
Yeah, yeah. I actually feel more comfortable being in the open air like that. I can see everything a lot better, and I feel like I can control the plane better and land, without the engine if I have to, since there are no obstructions.
That's
Yeah,
important.
yeah, got to be able to land. Landing's probably the most important part of what you do. So you learned to fly this trike specifically to take photography, or just to experience parts of the world from the air.
No, I actually didn't really even wasn't even thinking about photography. I was just thinking about experiencing what it was like up there. And of course, probably the first couple times I flew, I immediately was like, oh man, I got to get a camera. So it was a really pretty much natural evolution. I mean, immediately I started getting cameras and taking pictures as soon as I felt comfortable enough to have a camera up there. So yeah, the flying came first, and then the photography was a natural progression from that.
Yeah, it's funny how so many of us have kind of experiences in our life that we suddenly think, man, I need to capture this somehow. I need to record this.
Yeah.
And that kind of inspires us to get better at photography or to try out photography. I'm going to play a very short trailer of the film because I don't want to spoil the film by showing it all here. Of course, if you're watching this episode and you haven't seen One Day One Artist with Chris Dahl-Bredine yet, then you can watch it right here on this SmugMug Films YouTube channel. Just there's also a link in the description that you can use to go see the film. But I'm going to play a little trailer just so that people can get a little glimpse of what it is we've been talking about. So here's the trailer. Very short trailer because we don't want to spoil it, but it gives you a sense of just how exposed and how minimal this aircraft is, for want of a better word. I'm going to pull up some photographs that we have from you here. Let's open this one because it's a great example of what it is you do. So this is the Trike. Tell us a little bit about this machine.
Yeah, so it's a very simple, elegant machine. This is a French machine made by a company called Air Creation. Really great aviators and great designers. I've been flying the same company of Trikes since I started, and it's really just very simple to learn how to fly, very intuitive. The wings are very strong and stable. Of course, that's with any light aircraft, you have to really pay attention to flying conditions and weather. So generally, I end up flying mostly in the mornings, especially in the summertime or in warm climates. In the winter, you can fly more into the day if it's cold, just because you don't have so much movement of the air and thermals. So yeah, the control bar, which you see there kind of in front of me, is basically once you're in the air, that controls everything. There's no ailerons on the wing, no tail rudder. Everything is just shifting your weight with that control bar. If you pull the bar in, you go down and you go faster. If you push it out, you usually climb and go upward, depending on your RPM of your engine.
Yep.
And then if you push left or right, you turn. So it's a very organic, intuitive thing to fly. Really, it glides really
very
well.
Very analog.
It's very smooth. Very smooth, yeah. Pretty easy to figure out.
So this control bar, it's like a hang glider, right? It's like a motorized hang glider.
Yeah,
it works in the same way. Yeah.
Yeah, same exact controls as a hang glider.
And fortunately for us, when we wanted to make the film, and especially fortunately for Anton, this thing's a two-seater. Right?
Yeah, so, it's a two-seater, and it's a pretty. I had the fortune of going up in two of these, and Chris's is actually has a good amount of room to work in. So it's a beautiful aircraft.
Yeah. Is that the first time you'd been in one of these, Anton?
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I love going up. I love flying. Although I have to say, driving out to New Mexico, I had a couple of thoughts like, what am I going up in? What have I signed up for here? But honestly, the aircraft's beautiful, and the more you get to know Chris, he just kind of inspires confidence in what he's doing. So I had no problem. By the time we went up, I had no problem going up. And honestly, throughout the whole flight, I was totally covered. I was busy filming, so you kind of forget what you're doing and where you're at. But, And then when he told me, if the engine cuts off, you can still land it. I mean, really, I didn't feel like there was anything to worry about.
Yeah, you put him at ease, Chris. He did tell me that you made him feel very, very comfortable and relaxed.
I feel like Chris probably makes everyone feel like that, though, just at ease, comfortable.
Yeah, there's lots of professions you could have done with your relaxed approach to things. The image we're looking at the moment, Chris, it has skis on it, or skis. I'm not sure what you call them.
Skis, yep. They're
skis.
actually snowboards, yeah.
Snowboards. So, so I'm guessing on this flight, you were flying to to some snowy parts to land, yeah?
Yeah, well, usually I like having them on most of the winter. That way, when I go over the mountains and I try to put them on and leave them on most of the winter. And the wheels stick through the snowboards just enough that you can land on pavement or on snow. So it's a real versatile setup, and it doesn't change the handling characteristics in the air, and it's really really a nice setup for safety and just to be able to land out in wild places far from anywhere in the snow is really that's super exciting for me to do that, and
cool.
then to actually bring my skis and go skiing sometimes that's the ultimate.
Backcountry experience. So, because I was trying to figure out like what happens if you take off with these and then you get somewhere and there's no snow, but so you can use the wheels and the skis at the same time.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, I learned that in France from a pilot that I learned how to ski fly with. Great guy over there named Franck Toussaint, and he's the master when it comes to flying on skis. Him and his sons.
That's incredible. Your picture is breaking up a little bit for us at the moment, Chris, but we'll soldier on through.
Okay.
Hopefully your Wi-Fi settles down a little bit and connects you back there. But this image just really gives everybody a real understanding of what you're flying in. And Anton, when you were flying, when people watch the movie, they'll see that there are, there's footage of you. Beside Chris, filming Chris, but there's obviously ear-to-ear footage where you're filming Chris, kind of like this image from I guess another trike, right?
Yeah, I mean, like with all of these films, the first thought that kind of goes through my head is how do we capture it? And for some photographers, it's kind of a no-brainer. You just walk around with them. But with Chris, obviously, we had to kind of brainstorm and figure out what can we do with kind of a one-man video crew. How can we capture what he does? And that kind of, we try to incorporate as many tools as we could. That means like shooting over his shoulder for one flight and then shooting from another trike as best we could. I was just up there with my little gimbal and my little camera filming him fly by or, under or over us as best we could. And then of course we incorporated GoPros, and actually it was Chris's Insta360 that we stuck on the front of the trike that really gave the most kind of compelling or just immersive video shots that we got out of the whole trip. So we probably used 4 or 5 different cameras, as many angles as we possibly could.
So, you mentioned awesome. The 360 footage. If you haven't seen the film yet, go pay attention to the opening scene. Because it's so immersive with that 360 footage, so that you almost feel like we're in your lap, Chris, and then suddenly we're outside the wings of the trike. It's an incredible piece of footage. I'm glad we did the 360 thing.
If I had another day with Chris, I would love to just stick that 360 like all over the trike and just see what you get, because it's like the perfect tool for filming what he does, without having a multi a $50,000 like Cineflex or something shooting him. It's a very cool tool.
And Chris, we have a lot of mutual friends here at SmugMug with yourself. You work with a lot of great photographers who utilize your services for a lot of things you do, and your name has come up in conversations with a lot of our ambassadors like Andy Best, Chris Burkhardt, Renan Ozturk, a lot of people that we're all in the same kind of circle. and they all have just some incredible things to say about you, and just the work that you do and the work you've done together with them. So is working with other people kind of the main part of what you do, like providing your aerial service for other people?
Yeah, that's become in the last few years a really great part of it for me to share this with other photographers and videographers. For many years, I just flew solo all around these parts, and with a couple, sometimes with other flying buddies. But yeah, to actually bring in other people who really enjoy capturing these scenes and these adventures with me has been really, really a blessing, and such a great time the last few years meeting all these new people and learning from them too.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a big part of what I do now.
Yeah, it's a great community of people there, but they all love the opportunity that you provide to that community, because it is such a unique experience. So let's head back over here to some of these images, and tell me exactly where you are in the world. I said New Mexico, but I guess this is quite close to where you fly on a regular basis. Yeah.
Yeah, this is so I live in northern New Mexico, about 40 miles from the Colorado border, and this is the Rio Grande Gorge in this picture, which is about 4 miles from the airport. So it's
Mm.
every day, basically, anytime I fly, I see the gorge or fly over it, and so I've seen it in many different lights and conditions.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the Rio Grande Gorge Bridge, which is somewhat famous spot for people to sightseers to come
Yeah.
park and walk out and just look at the gorge. The gorge is an amazing. It's the Rio Grande River that carved this gorge, and it's just a mind blowing sight to see from the bridge or from the air. So yeah, this is we run this river in the summer as well, in rafts and kayaks when we have water,
Mm-hmm.
and when we go on flying trips, a lot of times we follow this river all the way up to the source. As a matter of fact, we might be heading up there in the next couple of weeks, flying up to the San Juans, where the source of the Rio Grande is, and headwaters. And that's always magical to make that journey up to the beginning of this river.
Yeah. What an incredible thing to have on your daily flight plan, to fly over the gorge. It's incredible. And in this image, incredible image. Obviously, there's a temperature inversion here where you're above this kind of cloud bank, and this bridge just looks like it's floating in midair. Incredible shot.
Yeah, after rains, we get sometimes get clouds down in the gorge, like a river of clouds, just
Mm.
filling up the gorge. So I wait for those kind of days, and really, I can't sleep when I know it's going to do that. And the next morning, I'm up there early, just waiting to see what it looks like. So it keeps it interesting.
Yeah, the cloud just pours in there like a river. It's incredible.
Uh-huh.
So you mentioned you like to fly early in the morning. And did you say late in the evening or late afternoon? Is that the times you like to fly?
Yeah, yeah. Evenings are great too. Not as reliable in the summertime,
Mm-hmm.
but in the winter the evenings are spectacular because if there's snow on the ground and it's not windy, you can almost always rely on being able to fly in the evening in the winter.
Yep.
In the summertime, it's rare that you can fly in the evenings. So, but sunset flights are special in their own way because it's not so cold and the light is totally different.
Mm.
So when I do get to fly sunset, it's a special event.
Yeah. Well, at least the times that you like to fly, or and it's best to fly, are also the best times to photograph. Right? You're flying at,
Yeah.
sunrise, sunset, so you're getting the golden hours and blue
Hmm.
hours. The things that as photographers we're all excited for. It would suck if the only time you could fly would be noon. So at least
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
get
Exactly.
to fly at the good times of day. So I'm gonna go through some more of your images, and I'm kind of in awe of what you get to see with your own eyes, because the closest I've got to seeing an image like this is maybe on an international flight, or looking at a hand-drawn piste map, which this is, when you go skiing, you get the piste maps that show you
Yeah.
where all the runs are. This photograph reminds me of that, but it's absolutely stunning. So you have a lot of ski slopes near where you live, yeah?
Yeah. We have a couple good ski mountains near us, and this one here, Taos Ski Valley, is right, within 15-minute flight of the airport as well. So I end up coming up here a lot too, and of course I love to ski up here. My daughter loves to ski with me here, so this is kind of one of my main playgrounds, along with the river, and it's amazing to be able to ski up here, and then some days come fly up here after you go skiing, or vice versa, and just get to experience your favorite areas from different perspectives on the same day is really cool.
Very special.
So, yeah.
Can you land on a commercial ski resort, or do you have to do backcountry if you go flying and skiing?
Yes, you would have to get permission from the ski area. So yeah, that's kind of case by case scenario there.
So you just do backcountry typically, go fly?
Yeah, I usually land out in the middle of nowhere where no one cares and where I'm allowed to land, and I like to get out into the nature away from everyone anyway. So generally that's what I end up doing.
So
Taos is like quite an outdoor activity kind of mecca, like Bend, Oregon, or kind of reminds me of Park City. Like lots of outdoor activities in a close proximity. It's beautiful, and by the way, and because of the ski resort, it's up there in elevation, and it is cold. Like, really cold.
Funny you mentioned that. That's what I was going to say. So in this photograph, it's obviously cold because there's snow on the ground, but you're also at high elevation on the ground, and now you're flying obviously above these. So Anton, you and I have had a conversation since you came back. It gets cold when you're in the Trike, correct?
I mean, on the ground, it was cold. I mean, I've shot in some cold locations, but when we were out there, it was pretty dang cold. I mean, just standing on the tarmac, my hands were freezing. But once we got up there, I tried to use thick gloves, but they weren't like powered, heated gloves. Chris tried to talk me into it for the first flight. And I thought, how am I going to manipulate my camera? And by the end of that day, I couldn't feel my fingertips. And some of my fingertips didn't come back to full feeling for like 3 days. Yeah. So that was a big concern of mine by the second flight. Like, how am I going to function? And, I couldn't feel a camera hardly. I just had to like bang on it with these nubs, and hopefully it's like hitting record, it's properly cold,
Yeah.
So
Chris, when it gets that cold, what precautions do you have to take when you're flying in those kind of super low temperatures?
Yeah, well, you have to have, of course, I have a huge down suit that I wear, and down, layers of down underneath that as well.
I think we can see that
really
in this image.
It's really important to have heated socks and heated gloves. And especially the gloves, if you don't have those, you won't, in the winter, you won't last long at all up there. So that's a must. And I actually I have an extra set of gloves with me in the cockpit just in case. And matter of fact, yesterday morning, I had one of my gloves had an accident and went flying out of the Trike, and I had to, luckily I had an extra.
Yeah.
I would think at one point, if you're going if you're flying somewhere far, that could be a hazard. I mean, because you get to a point where your hands aren't even of any use, right? I mean, they get so frozen.
Yeah, that's really important. And that's why I always have a backup pair as well, because basically if your hands start freezing, you have to land and warm up. So that has to be and I've been using that system, for the whole time. So it's pretty reliable, as long as you keep your gloves with you. And then you have an extra set with you as well, in case something happens to one. That's really important, keeping your hands warm. And a lot of times you're operating the camera. So I have these bar mitts on the bar I put my gloves into. But when you're operating the camera, you have to take your hands out of those. And even with the heated gloves on cold days, your hands will get cold, even with the heat turned up all the way. So that's a big concern. And having some of those little heated those little heated pouches, hand warmers, is really good to have for another backup. Those are the kind of things you think about when you're up there on really cold days, because one little failure of some piece of equipment and you're you could be stuck somewhere.
Yeah, it's something I noticed in the film when I was watching it, is I did notice that when you were flying, you had your hands inside these mitts that are permanently attached to the control bar. And then when you take your hands out, you have other gloves on them. But so I guess when you're
Yeah.
doing the actual photography is when you're most vulnerable and most at risk.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it must be. It's almost like expeditions to Everest. If you lose a piece of equipment, you lose a glove at the top of Everest, it can be fatal. That's just losing something
Yeah.
as simple as a glove. It's exposure to those kind of extreme temperatures is extremely extremely dangerous. There's a nice comment just come in here on the chat window from Dan, who says, "Looking forward to flying with Chris next week in Colorado." So there you go.
Do you know Dan?
Yeah, Dan's a fellow pilot.
Yeah.
Yep, he flies a Trike as well.
All the Trike guys in one place. So, are you flying up to Colorado then?
Yeah, that's the plan, to go up there and with a few buddies and fly around. We do this every year, at least once, and it's incredible. We just camp out and bring all our stuff with us, and
So
basically
cool.
just have a fly fest. We get up at 5 or 4 in the morning, fly out till we get tired, and then come back, take a nap, go fishing, try to fly again in the evening, and that's basically your day.
Sounds
It's
terrible.
really fun.
Sounds absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
That sounds like a film.
Yeah. Can you
Yeah.
haul? I'm guessing you can haul these things. Like if you wanted to go, to another state further afield, you could haul it and then, pack it up and pack it up quite small to haul it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a real nice thing about these. I mean, I like flying places if I can, but the versatility of being able to put your whole trike on the trailer and your wing goes on the roof. Your wing folds up into a duffel bag about 20 feet long. Um, it's really actually a big deal because if the weather gets bad, you can just keep your trike on the trailer and then drive somewhere else. And whenever the weather gets good, you set it up again, and that way you can stay mobile
Yeah.
and have all your other, your bike and your other toys. So you do that when the weather's bad for flying, and then have your trike there for whenever the weather's good for flying. You set it up and off you go.
Yeah. Because if you fly somewhere and the weather turns, then you have to fly back at some point. But if you haul it
Yeah,
somewhere,
you're
then
stuck.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right, let's look at some more incredible imagery because, yeah, you definitely see a perspective on the world that most of us, most of us don't get to see. And the fact that you capture such stunning light is incredible. Again, is this one New Mexico as well?
Yeah, this is actually right near the town of Taos. One of those days where it's kind of gray and overcast, and then the light just kind of beams through a hole in the clouds and
Yeah.
lights certain areas up. So, whenever I see a hole in the clouds with light coming through, I fly towards that and try to
Well,
capture
you
what I
know,
see.
that's one thing I was going to ask you, and I didn't ask you this while we were together, but you flew for some time without a camera, and now you're flying with a camera probably most of the time. Do you find yourself like chasing a photograph or flying differently than you normally would or prior? Like maybe a little higher, a little lower, a little longer for a photo, or is it pretty much
Yeah,
you got to stay the course? You
I've
have to stay like maintained and fly straight.
yeah, the first thing is just safety, making sure you're flying, you can get back to where you started. You're
Yeah.
not going to expose yourself to any bad weather, but I've been chasing photos since the first few months of flying. So I pretty much, I don't fly without the camera, and a couple times when like I've run out of battery or run out of card space on my camera, and you're flying along without it, it's so different. It's kind of nice actually to put the
Now
camera
you're
down
like
now and then, not
your
worry
evol-
about
oh, go
getting
ahead.
shots.
Your evolution of camera has changed quite a bit, right? Like when you first started shooting, was it like a point and shoot?
Yeah, I started with a little point and shoot Olympus, a tiny little compact thing, 35 millimeter. And this was, 20 years ago. So digital wasn't really accessible to the, to the general public, that was very good quality at that point. So I tried a cheap digital, that didn't do it. I just wanted a camera that I could really print big images, because I wanted to do shows with the images, and really they come to life when you see them printed huge. So after that, I shot with a Nikon 35mm for a year or two, and then I went to a medium format Mamiya camera, and that was a great step up. Like, all of a sudden I could print big photos, but still I was still limited by 32 exposures on the roll. And then when that ran out, I had to, thread another roll into this thing while I'm flying. Really, it was it was tricky.
I can't imagine
You'd
that.
run out of exposure so quick.
I can
I
imagine
used
that.
to complain about loading film on the ground, let alone at thousands of feet in the air. So
at 10 degrees.
It was tricky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And did
Cool.
did film cameras ever get film cameras being mechanical the way they were they susceptible to the cold? Did you ever have any?
That was the nice thing about film cameras, is they weren't so susceptible.
Right.
Because they didn't have really electronic screens or anything.
Yeah, no
so
batteries.
They did really well in the cold. Yeah. Some of my other digitals along the way when it got really cold, my screen would just freeze up and I couldn't see what I was shooting, or the battery would die really fast.
Yeah, it's always a problem with batteries in the cold.
It was it was a problem with batteries and screens. And if it gets below zero, a lot of things struggle with that, anything electrical. But that Sony's been really reliable in the cold so far, so I'm pretty happy with that.
Cool. Yeah, I'm going to flick through some more images as we talk, and we can just talk about some of these. And the angle that you're at, shadows become such an important part of what you do when you're in the air. This image just takes on a whole other dimension just because of the shadows.
Yeah, it's amazing when you actually come across wildlife like this. This was high up in the mountains, probably close to 13, 12, over 12,000 feet. And this herd just appeared below me, and it was incredible.
Is it elk?
So the shadows really, especially when there's animals involved, the shadows can just be mind-boggling. Cave art, when you see like cave art from prehistoric times.
And then when you get a snow covering, just this little dusting like this, and suddenly the gorge becomes this huge scar that stands out in the land. It's incredible.
Yeah. So that's heading up north towards Colorado. The White Mountains in the background, that's Blanca Peak. That's in Colorado. And this mountain right in front of us, it's called Butte Mountain. This is an extinct shield volcano, huge volcano that's extinct now, but that sits right on the border. Just north of that is the Colorado state line.
Right. Yeah, it's hard to kind of quite get the scale from here, but it's still pretty obvious that is a huge mountain, especially because it's on its own in this flat plain. Yeah, it's massive, absolutely massive. And then some incredible peaks that you have there.
Yeah, it really is exciting to me to fly these peaks, and especially catch them at sunrise, and the light and the shadow. And I'll plan sometimes for weeks for a shot like this, where I'm going to be, how long it takes to get there, what time I have to get up, just to get there in time for this kind of light,
Yeah, peaks, and the quality and the color here is just incredible when the light has that quality to it. Beautiful. I want to get to some images, a lot of beautiful peaks here, but this one reminds me a lot of home here in Scotland, with trees and green and lochs. It's a beautiful image.
Yeah, this is up in Crested, Butte, Colorado.
Right.
So the bigger kind of mountain on the left is actually Mount Crested Butte. This is an amazing. This is one of my favorite places to fly. Just, as you can see why, in the winter or the summer, it's just spectacular. And behind this image, like if you were to turn around and fly the other way, you get up into the Maroon Bells and just these incredible 14,000 foot peaks that are, yeah, just this area is one of my favorite areas I've ever flown.
Yeah, it's like an
One
incredible.
thing,
Sorry, Anton. It's like an incredible water runway you have there. Is there any way to modify a trike to land on water?
Yeah, actually, they sell floats. You can get floats and
Huh?
put them on your trike and just land on water, like in
That'd be
Alaska or
rad.
somewhere where there's lots of water. It'd be
Yeah.
incredible to have that ability.
Well, let us know when you try that.
Okay, will do.
one of the
Sorry,
amazing
Anton.
things about the trike though was, when Chris told me the range of the trike. What's the furthest you can fly if you had the right wing, and what's the range of the trike?
Yeah, with the right conditions, the right wing, and that trike I have with the big gas tank, you could definitely make it 300 miles. Um, 300 or more. I think the longest I've gone in one flight is about 300 miles.
Wow.
And then you just get tired of sitting in that seat. But yeah, you
Because
could
what does that
go
equate to?
further than
4 or
that.
5 hours in the air?
Yeah, 4 or 5 hours,
Yeah.
depending on which wing you're flying. So
Wow.
5 hours is a long time in the seat. But
Yeah.
that's the longest I've ever sat in there is 5 hours flying to Utah.
You run out of energy before the trike does.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You're just kind of hanging on like bleary-eyed and just really want to get on the ground at that point.
Okay, I found the images I wanted to look at. This is a place I know you. I think both of you were here, but it's a place I'd love to experience. Shiprock, right? It's just the most incredible rock formations I've ever seen. So you're very fortunate to get to experience it the way you do, Chris.
Yeah, this is a really magical spot. This is a sacred, range or I should say, it's a pinnacle on the Navajo
Mm-hmm.
reservation, and it is really. I mean, they have a beautiful legend about this peak that you should read sometime if you get a chance. But it's even when you're driving by it, it just catches your eye from 100 miles away, and it's there's nothing quite like it that I've seen. Um, and it's funny, I didn't get a chance to fly around it till like 5, 6 years ago. And when I did, I was like, wow, what took me so long to come over here? This place is incredible.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is a really magical and sacred area right here
Yeah,
for the
I've
Navajo.
spoke about this area at length with another mutual friend of ours, Milo Fowler, who's if you don't know
Yes,
Milo, check out Milo on
I know
Instagram.
Milo. Yes.
Yeah, Navajo Milo. He's a wonderful SmugMug customer with some incredible images, and I know this is a very important part of the Navajo land there, and yeah, it's just incredible. But these images from your perspective really let you experience the sort of drama and the just the awe-inspiring nature of this kind of rock formation, which you probably wouldn't quite get this kind of grandeur from the ground. It would be impressive, but you wouldn't get to see it in its full glory the way you do.
Yeah, this is really a moving place to fly, or just even to see from any angle.
Yeah, it's on my to-do list. So one of these days,
Yeah.
Chris, I'll book a ride and you can let me experience it like
All
this.
right. Sounds good.
Incredible. Did you fly over there with Chris, Anton? No,
No, it
no,
was it's
just
pretty
too
far
far.
from
Yeah,
where Chris is. Although I think Chris probably can do the round trip from his place, I think. I don't know, but yeah, it
Yeah.
was just too far.
yeah.
But when I met Chris, I was with Andy Best, and
Oh, it was
Andy and
with
I,
Andy. Yeah,
we drove by. And honestly, it hadn't really been on my radar before. I'd heard of it, but as soon as I saw it, I mean, it's just so dramatic. And instantly I was like, why hasn't this been on my radar prior?
yeah,
And it's not just this formation. If you see in the previous
yeah. It's
images, there's
this
this
spine.
spine that
Yeah,
leads up to it.
for miles, right?
Parts
It
of it
goes for
almost look,
miles.
it's a long way, yeah. I mean, it's got to be a few miles long. It's just very impressive, and you can see it from I don't know, we were in Farmington, even further away, 50 miles away, and you can see it because it's the only thing sticking out of the ground.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, you can see it from
So
miles and miles.
Yeah, and it's definitely definitely makes you feel like there's a beast under the ground, you know, with this kind of spine sticking up and the head up there. Yeah, really, really incredible. What, Chris? What is the one place that really stops you in your track that, you know, still inspires you to this day when you're flying above it and you feel, I just constantly have to take pictures of this?
You know, there's a few places like that.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of them.
Yep.
Southern Utah is like this. Southern Utah is just, yeah, I mean, everywhere you look is something just otherworldly. I would say, yeah, this area, Southern Utah, and then that area around Crested, Butte, as well as one of those. Well, and the San Juan. So those are kind of my top so far. Those are my top kind of areas where I just want to. I'm always drawn back to those areas to experience them again because there's so much more to see and so many more different ways to capture them or just to experience them. You know, the San Juan Mountains are kind of near Silverton and Telluride in that area, and that's just this massive expanse of 14,000 foot peaks that go for miles and miles. And that's kind of where we're planning on going next week, probably for a few days.
Sounds amazing. This was another image that I need you to tell me about this image because when I saw it, again, this is probably something when you're on the ground, it doesn't really quite look like this, but from the air, these patterns are just incredible.
Yeah, this is that southern Utah zone I was talking about. This is the San Juan River cuts through there. You can see the river down there. And this is, this is just these amazing geological event that happened here that created this. I mean, they call it like a Navajo blanket. It looks like patterns in a blanket, you know, that Navajos make. It's just hard to even believe that exists, you know, until you see it.
Yeah.
And so from Monument Valley, this is probably, I'd say about 30 miles away, maybe. And this whole zone is just full of things like this. You know, it's hard to even take it in. It's like overwhelming how much crazy alien looking landscape there is that just bends your mind to look at it.
Yeah, it's hard to look at that and realize that it's natural. You know, if you saw that in a movie, you'd think, oh, it's a bit over the top. You know, it's like they've gone a little too far with the CGI kind of there. But you know, this is here on our own planet, and it is absolutely incredible. So how many years have you been flying now?
It's been actually 19 years.
19 years.
I think in April, yeah.
And have you seen a lot of change in our planet, in the climate, and the events that you witness? Have you seen changes in those years that you've been doing this?
Yeah, I would say the biggest changes I've seen have been in the forests, especially like Colorado, southern Colorado, where massive amounts of forests have died from from beetle infestations, which are brought on by drought conditions. So that's really, these huge forests I used to fly over are in this one area are like really close to 90% dead. And the ones that, some of them have even caught fire and burned since then because they were just dry fuel waiting to burn. So
yeah,
I'd say that's kind of one of the biggest things I've seen that's changed a lot in that 20 years is just, forest dying off from fire and beetle infestations.
Yeah, and it's obvious to you. You can see it with your own eyes at scale because you're above it. You know, when you're standing on the ground, you see a few dead trees, but when you're flying from your perspective, it really opens your eyes to some of these events. I pulled up another image here that takes a few moments to kind of try and understand what's going on here, but this is quite different from what we've seen previously of mountains and snow. Tell us where we are with this image.
Yeah, this is another one of my favorite spots on the planet. This is the Colorado Great Sand Dunes, and ever since I started flying, this place was like, I gotta go fly to the dunes. And so I've made many trips up here, and on this trip, it was pretty unique because there was actually these bull elk sitting out on the dunes, just hanging out, and they were big animals, just sitting there. And of course, they heard me and saw me, and they were just watching me fly by. And I had rarely seen anything out in the middle of the dunes like this, and I think they just felt safe out there because no one ever goes there. It's a part of the dunes that are really hard to get to, and they're just hanging out, taking their morning nap.
Yeah, pretty cool. I wonder what they thought of you. I wonder if they thought you were a predator or something.
They didn't seem too scared of me. I think
they're big enough to not have predators.
Well, yeah, they know mountain lions are. Well, even mountain lions won't really attack them when they're that big.
Cool.
The only predator is hunters.
Yeah, the worst predator. I've got a question for you here from Gary Monroe, who's a long-time viewer of the show. Hi, Gary, good to see you. He says, do you have the same flight restrictions as a drone operator would have? Or what are your kind of flight restrictions and procedures that you need to follow?
Yeah, so I have basically a private pilot license, and my craft is under the same rules as a small airplane like a Cessna. So much different rules than a drone operator.
Yeah.
I can fly up to 18,000 feet. Anywhere where it's Class G or E airspace that's that I'm allowed in, which most of New Mexico is open airspace. And then if I want to go into a busy airspace like Class B or C, like around an international airport, I would have to ask permission and be in radio contact with the towers there.
Yeah.
So much different than drone operators. Drones are only allowed 400 feet off the ground max.
Yeah.
And they're not allowed to fly over, national parks and things like this, whereas, general aviation is allowed to.
Yeah. So probably a lot more restrictions, but also a lot more capabilities. Do you have to lodge like flight plans and stuff before you leave, or can you be quite flexible when you fly?
Yeah, no, there's no need to file flight plans in these airspaces here.
Mm-hmm.
So it's actually pretty nice because you have a radio and you are in contact with other airports you go to. But most of the airports I go to are just pilot to pilot communications. So there's no towers, and you just say, hey, I'm coming in from this angle, this landing on this runway. Anybody in the area advise, and anyone else in the area advises what they're doing, and you just work it out together, pilot to pilot. So this part of the country is actually the whole country compared to parts of the world is very free airspace, and it allows for a lot of freedom in flying.
Yeah, well, certainly looking at those images, you seem to be in this incredibly sweet spot where, within your capabilities of time and flying, you just have some incredible parts of the world that you get to experience and photograph. Anton, what was your big takeaway from spending time with Chris and experiencing being in a trike? What was your favorite part of it all?
Well, I think meeting Chris and just his open nature and letting us kind of tag along. I mean, Chris is, sorry, my apologies. Just actually hanging out with Chris. And did I lose you guys? No.
No, you're good.
And like I said, just the kind of like he inspires like confidence in what he's doing, and listening to him talk about what he does and why he does it. That was just a cool thing for me to kind of witness and connect with Chris. And of course, the flight itself, I knew if everything went well, I knew it was going to be amazing. Just that open cockpit, feel. You know, you lose the sense of speed even when you're up there, and it's just almost just like a platform to shoot from. So the big takeaway for me is Taos itself, because you fly over this gorge and you have this amazing kind of layout of this desert, and then we flew, I don't know, a few miles east, and we were above this these mountains and peaks with snow on them and stuff. So the variety of what he's shooting from, that's so close to his home, is great. And the other thing, the accessibility too, for him to be able to get to this airstrip or airport. I call it an airstrip, but maybe an airport, and you know, to kind of just jump in his trike and be off on his own, flying above Taos. It's just super accessible. I feel like if you did that in LA or any major city, it would be this. It just seems like it would be this kind of cumbersome thing. But his lifestyle too, you know, him and his buddies, they'll, like he said, they're gonna jump in these trikes and go camping. They go fishing. They go skiing. It's just this cool lifestyle that's just inspiring beyond the photography or what we shot. You know?
Yeah.
So.
Sounds like you're jealous a little bit. You're going to start learning to fly.
I feel like if you know, my next life, I feel like I just want to do that, go fish and you know, ski and fly around the trike. Although, you know, I think it's awesome that, you know, one of the things that he's been able to incorporate this like into like, you know, one of his passions that he really has about flying, because I know he's always wanted to fly. He mentioned that. And to kind of have this take on it, the photography, and also working with all these amazing artists that use his trike as a platform, is probably this thing he didn't expect. And I think that's just, you know, so amazing, so awesome.
Yeah, it's cool. You're still breaking up a little bit, Chris, unfortunately. But before we wrap up, I'm going to ask everybody watching a favor to hit that subscribe button, hit that little bell notification. That way, whenever we have another show here on SmugMug Live, or if we release another film, you will be notified first and get to see it as soon as possible. So do us a favor, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, show your support for the show. We really do appreciate it. Chris, what's next for you? What's, other than heading out and playing with your buddies, what's the next big thing? I think you told me recently you're working on a new kind of mount, a new gimbal for the front of the trike, right?
Yeah, I'm kind of starting kind of a new direction of doing more aerial videography. I have a really great setup on the front, on the nose of the trike, that I can control a gimbal with a control on it. And so yeah, I'd like to you know, make some sort of documentary or some sort of piece with that. Maybe I'll start with this trip to Colorado and shooting my buddies flying around in that beautiful area.
Yeah, it's cool that you have other people you can film as well. It's a great subject. So we look forward to seeing some of that. If people wanted to fly with you or utilize your services, how would they do that? How would they get in touch with you?
It's probably best just to message me on Instagram. The best way to get a hold of me, and feel free to ask any questions or any kind of things you're wondering. Feel free to direct message me, and I'll get back to you and answer whatever I can.
Yeah, and I put your shot at Shots From Above is where you'll find Chris on Instagram. I've also got links to all your information here in the description of the show here on YouTube. Chris, I just want to thank you for giving us the time today, but more importantly, giving us the time to spend, you know, the day with you and get into you know, the story of what you do, and letting Anton capture that. And yeah, it's a wonderful film. We're delighted. So thank you so much for letting us do that with you.
Yeah, thanks, Alistair. It's been a pleasure. And Anton, thanks again. It's a pleasure working with you, and I really love the job you did on the film. And yeah, it's been nothing but good working with you guys. Yeah. So thank you.
Cool.
Thank you,
Anton. Absolutely. Thank you so much for capturing such a great story on Chris and letting us, you know, share Chris's story here on SmugMug Films. If you haven't seen the film yet, then yeah, the link is right here in the descriptions. Go check it out. One Day, One Artist with Chris Dahl-Bredine. It really is a wonderful film and a great trip. So, gentlemen, thank you so much for your time today. and I will let you get back to doing what you do best. And yeah, look to catching up with you soon. Everybody, wherever you are in the world, stay safe, be kind, look after each other, and we'll see you back here for another episode of SmugMug Live very, very soon. But for now, Chris, Anton, thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Thank you, guys.
It's a pleasure.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.